Last time on Catchin' Rays, we just arrived at Ocean World's Marina in the Dominican Republic after a 29-hour passage from the Turks and Caicos. We checked into the country, had customs, narcotics, and the Dominican Navy on board to fill out paperwork, and were officially welcomed to explore their beautiful country. But just 2 days later, Tammy's mom bought a last-minute plane ticket to come see us and spend some quality time with the white trash vagabonds. So we rented a car, fought through all the uninvited window washers, and made the 35-minute trip to Puerto Plata Airport to get her.
I think we're getting my mom, either that or we've missed my mom.
There he is.
There they is. There they is. There he is. There she is. There she is. Hi. I was beginning to think, holy shit, we missed her. Well, we found her. Long day.
With the name mountain is Aberdeen. The higher mountain, 2,165 feet, about 800 maybe. Is that? No, the highest mountain, Dominican, the highest mountain is Lake Pico Duarte. You know, the height 3,178 meters. Only one cable can this one. Okay?
Yeah.
It's in the cable change every 10 years. It's a new cable.
That's good.
Everybody like it, huh? You okay with the huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, take a picture of the harbor there.
The next day, we decided to go to the cable car and ride it to the top of the mountain to see Jesus. Or at least a statue of him. And I've never really had a fear of cable cars, or ski lifts, or gondolas. But when I saw the guy do the sign of the cross over his chest, it gave me thought. As this is no ordinary cable car ride. This thing goes way up, above the clouds up. And the city below kept getting smaller and smaller.
A couple minutes, the clouds coming. I can see that, okay? Okay, my family, tomorrow we say hallelujah.
Hallelujah! This looks exactly like the rafter pin.
Where's the cow?
Hello? This is the view from here.
Yes. And this is where the massive cables attach to the earth.
Holy crap.
And then we saw Jesus. And read about the history of this Dominican tourist attraction. But our guide Noel told us to tell everybody back home that we went to Rio de Janeiro for vacation instead. And of course you have to pose for the typical pictures while you're there. And just when we were ready to go back down the mountain, the clouds most certainly rolled in. The next day, we traveled to the 27 waterfalls, something that Noel had recommended, and we're really glad he did. But the pictures I saw on the internet didn't quite paint the picture of the extensive hike that you have to go through just to enjoy them. And if I hadn't been in the most peak physical condition of my life, I might not have made it to this first pool. Although I think I was nearing a mild myocardial infarction coupled with heat exhaustion, tachycardia, hypertension, and a possible brain aneurysm. But it was absolutely beautiful and worth my near-death experience. And the scenery is some of the most impressive I'd ever seen. We'd swim for a bit, walk for a little while, and then jump into the very cold and refreshing water, all the way down the chain of 27 waterfalls. I can't think of anything I've seen that rivals this pure beauty. And it was all around us. And it was truly spectacular. Around every corner was something more impressive than the last. Although it took over 2 hours to get through it all, I left wanting more, and it was over too soon. But soon after that, we said goodbye to Tammy's mom, as we also said goodbye to the DR. We had a nice weather window to continue on our journey to the east. After I dropped her off at the airport, I turned in the rent-a-car and jumped back on board. My crew had already moved to the fuel dock and topped off the diesel. All I had to do was get my official dispatchio from the Dominican Navy, and we were off, setting sail on what would turn out to be a 47-hour passage to Puerto Rico. We motor sailed all night in a pretty calm sea, unaware of the massive fishing pots that we'd been unintentionally avoiding until about 3 o'clock in the morning, when one passed within 5 feet of our boat. But eventually we survived the night without getting tangled up with any of them, and the following morning, as the sun rose, it exposed some of the most beautiful landscape that any of us had ever seen. We were rounding the northeast corner of the DR, and it's one of the few times that we made a point to photograph the shoreline. It was simply awe-inspiring, and it made us forget about the passage we were on, if not just for a few hours. But pictures and videos just don't do this type of landscape justice. It just has to be witnessed to be appreciated. And I feel lucky to have seen this firsthand during our passage. And then we saw another fishing trap, this time in the daylight. Although this one was much smaller than the ones we'd seen the previous night, it still had the potential to stop a prop in its tracks. There was even a mahi on the end of this one. But we continued on, hoping it was the last one, but unfortunately it wasn't, and just before dusk we saw another, about the same size as the ones the previous night. These massive fishing pots were miles from shore and in over 4,000 feet of water. Something we never thought we'd have to worry about this far from shore and in such deep water. So you find yourself doing periodic checks of the props and rudders. It's nice to have a GoPro on board to do the inspections on the fly. And then, as if shot out by a rocket only feet in front of the boat, one of these dolphins cleared a height of about 10 feet before turning to his side and falling back to the ocean. It's something we only thought they did in captivity, and we were stoked to have been sitting at the helm and looking forward to the bow. We did the best we could after that to get the camera rolling and to document the rest of their visit. It's absolutely something I'll never forget, as it was the first time the dolphins came to our boat to play. This is the one who knew how to make an entrance, and he kept leaning to his side to get a look at us. He knew he had an audience, and he did everything he could to get a look for himself. But just as fast as they arrived, they were gone. We made the 47-hour passage to Puerto Rico, no worse for the wear. We tied up to the dock in Puerto Real, checked into the country, and got some much-needed sleep. 2 days later, we went over to Boca Raton and anchored for a couple days, where we fought through the mini airplanes, the loud music, and the fast jet skis. After that, we headed to La Parquera for a night anchorage. Then over to Ponce Marina so that we could upload episode number 5. And while we were there, got a visit from the local birds that just have a thing for a sailboat boom. The next day, we made the short motor sail over to Isla de Muertos and the gorgeous anchorage. We finally felt like we had some privacy from the big crowds at Puerto Rico mainland, and did some swimming and exploring, and enjoyed this beautiful island. Next time on Catch and Raise, we finally make it to the USVIs.
Welcome to beautiful St. Thomas, the United States Virgin Islands.
Pero eso es para la próxima vez.
Well, a man's got to have a dream. And if you can't walk on the inside with me, I'll get you in between. Oh, come amazing. And the stars about your name. And if you still think I'm lying to you, you can light it now, comes the rain. Step back, non-believers, for the rain will never come. Someone keep that fire burning, somebody beat the drum. Said some may think I'm crazy for making all these rains. But I swear before this day is over, you folks are gonna see some rain. Step back, non-believers.
Going to provision. Woo!
I'm not